Hello, fellow followers. Welcome back to the Physical Media Show here on FanZcene Vids. I am Greg of FanZcene, and with me tonight is just Tom. Tonight, uh,
Hi.
so I know you're all in all of us too. So glad to have you here as always, Tom. Runner, of course, could not
Glad to
make
be here.
tonight. Yes, Runner could not make it tonight because of work. I'm glad to have you here. But as we get before we get started, let's say hi to everybody that's been waiting on us and everything, and in the chat, whatnot. We have Heather Preston who says hi, Heather Preston. Always glad to see you in the chat. Uh, Old Snakes says, I was going to say 69 minutes, nice, but now it's only 68 minutes. That's gay. Okay. What in hell do you, Old Snakes? Snakes. I swear I've heard that name before. Snakes. He sounded like a snake. Hail Tim Hayes. Glad to see you here as well as always. And hails to you, Random Brad Creator. Glad to see you in the chat. And let's see, scrolling down, make sure I get everybody. Delete scene. Steven. Hello, Steven. How are you this evening? Glad to have you here. And Ace Hanlon. Hola to you. Did I not click Stevens? I clicked the aces. Yeah, so I'm glad to have you here. There's Stevens. Okay. Corleone Rogue, glad to see you here too. Welcome. Sean Mountain, howdy. I hope I said it. I mean, it's an abbreviation of mountain, I would assume, but you know what they say when you assume, though. VHS Mikey, my dude, glad to have you here as always. What is up, my brother? And I believe that is it. Oh, and Steven says he's back, or Tim says he's back. I'm sorry, I'm getting all messed up. Well, thank you all to everybody in the chat there and everybody watching. How are you doing this evening, Tom? How are you?
Oh, doing the best I can. How about you?
Doing good. Like I said, a little tired, a little boring, so forth. Yeah, this you never know. Dan Blackroyd, welcome as well. He says, "Quick, invite R&B before Runner arrives." You never know. He may sometimes he pops in. Tom will send him the link, or I'll send him the link, and boom, he's here. You never expect him. He appears. What's that from Lord of the Rings? I can't remember. It's like he's here just right on time or whatever. I can't remember.
Whenever I intend to.
Yeah. Inverse Opinion, welcome. I'm glad to see you here. Cryum, glad to see you here. Still watching. You guys be safe out there in Oklahoma with them tornadoes. You guys be safe. I hope you guys are okay. And evening, Tyrell 72. Mikey, be careful. Be safe out there in Oklahoma. I hear them tornadoes are coming out there bad. I'm praying for you guys. But Tom, you want to play the 4K for you thing real quick, so we
Sure,
can see
I
it,
can
tell
do that.
everybody. Yeah. I love that you keep doing that now. It helps a lot. I need to put one together for my stream so that way I don't have to keep using yours. Keep bumming.
No biggie. Let's see here. I just wasn't ready. Sorry.
That's okay. But we'll go while he's getting ready, guys. What we're going to do is this is from Tom's 4K for you. We're going to talk a little bit about those. It's going to share a little bit about the upcoming releases. Nothing too big, but maybe something of interest to anybody watching.
All right. This is your news and rumors for 4K for you for the week of April 19th, 2023. We've got an update from last week. Peter Pan and the Sword and Stone will only be coming in standard Blu-ray through the Disney Movie Club, not 4K, but Bill Hunt of the Digital Bits has let us know that Snow White will be coming in 4K this year from Disney, so thanks for that. We also got a look at the Mission Impossible Steelbooks coming on the 27th of June. Ronin will be coming from Kino Lorber on the 20th of June in 4K, as well as the Manchurian Candidate in 4K as well on that day from Kino Lorber. We got to look at the Bruce Lee 4K collection from Arrow, which is coming the 17th of July in the UK. No US release date yet, but we'll keep you updated. Looks like Hey There, It's Yogi Bear will be coming to Blu-ray from the Warner archive. We also got to look at the Criterion Collection releases for July. That includes A Watermelon Woman in 2K, Breathless in 4K, One False Move in 4K, After Hours in 4K, and the Renowned Westerns Collection in 4K, which is 5 films. We only got a couple rumors this week. Johnny Guitar is rumored to be coming in 4K. Weird Science is up for 4K as well, although that's not a surprise. That's had a master for a while, and chances are Arrow will be the one releasing that. And we also got a rumor for The Lawnmower Man coming in 4K, which most likely will be coming from Scream Factory via Shout. So that's your news and rumors for this week from 4K for You.
There y'all have it. I hope that helps you out any. Some good titles here and there, some not so good titles. I am looking forward to After Hours, and honestly, I'm Lawnmower Man. I'm gonna get Lawnmower Man because it's like I told Tom, it's just one of those great bad movies. But there you guys have it. Tom, is there anything you want to say before we get into showing our picks tonight? Because we're breezing it. We're easy breezy tonight.
I mean, there was a couple with it I missed in there,
Oh, yeah,
but other
yeah.
than that, nothing really super important that I can think of offhand, but yeah.
Yeah, just go to Kino Lorber's website, Twitter page, Instagram, whatever social media you use. They've like released something almost every single day this week for a new title coming, for something for everybody, guaranteed. Because there's a lot. But there you guys have it. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first tonight?
Don't matter to me. It's up to you.
All right, we'll start with you.
All right. Let's see. First things first, I got a new Criterion 4K of The Fisher King. Terry Gilliam classic. Nice. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but
with
Sony, Jeff Bridges.
Jeff Robin Bridges. Williams. Yeah.
I've seen it. It's a new 4K scan from Sony. Looks beautiful. Has a 5.1 mix. That's all. So I don't know if it was originally done in Dolby Digital and they just transferred it over or what, but I think it's old enough that it would have been in 2.0 originally, but I could be wrong. Either way, it sounds good, looks good. There's a ton of extras I didn't get a chance to check out. It is probably one of Gilliam's most commercially accessible films, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, for those who don't know what the story is, basically, the real quick version is Jeff Bridges plays this shock jock, and kind of like in the vein of like Howard Stern at that time, and he's on the verge of his new big breakout, and this one guy that he talks to periodically on the phone, he was picking on one night, and this guy decided to go in and shoot up this dance club, and of course, you know, Jeff Bridges has this breakdown, and it kind of like jumps like a year or so ahead of, you know, in the story, and he happens upon this homeless guy who saves him from getting his ass beat one night when he was out drinking, and he was thinking about killing himself, actually. And it turns out that a twist of fate in who this individual is. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil any more than that, because it is a very well done film. It's brutally honest, but it has this very sweet storyline to it about, you know, trying to get redemption and helping somebody find love and coming back from the brink, you know? And, you know, just kind of this idea of, you know, there's some deeper messages here as far as like, you know, it almost some theological messages without it getting too deep into, you know, being too on the nose without being religious, but at the same time, like part of the whole
like
bit of Robin Williams.
Type thing.
Yeah, but the thing is Robin Williams going after the Holy Grail, right? Like, so that's right. So there is like a very deep-seated kind of like, you don't have a specific character questioning God or not, but on like in the actual movie itself, but you can almost feel like there's that element there at the same time, because like you said, a lot of it's about forgiveness, about letting go, about, you know, learning how to be able to cope with loss. Moving it's forward. A very serious film, and one of Robin's probably overlooked performances when people think about his, you know, big performances. When they talk about his dramatic roles, usually the first thing they jump to is something like Always or something like that, you know. But like this is a good film, and it's a very great transfer. I'm sure it'll be around for a while, so you could probably wait for a sale from the Criterion Collection. But I just got to say, I'm not a fan of this art. Whoever decided
Yeah.
that they were, because they did it for this one, they did it for Dazed and Confused, and a couple other ones that came out around this time. I really wish they would have done something different for this release, because this is some of the
Yeah, it's pretty
worst
bad.
art. I don't know who did it, but it looks like a fucking 3-year-old did it.
I always remember the picture like with Jeff Bridges with the long hair and the ponytail, and he's
Yeah.
standing by Robin Williams. I remember that poster picture. Why didn't they just use that? Because that would be way better than that.
Well,
That's horrible.
Criterion is not one who's known for doing really good things with their box art.
Yeah,
I
they're not
really
good at
dislike that they're. I hate calling it lazy because it's worse than lazy, because it's confusing, because they don't really highlight or let you know that something's 4K, Blu-ray, or in some cases almost DVD. Like the only thing that you can tell the difference between a DVD and a Blu-ray from Criterion is the size of the box.
that. Right. They don't really change it up much at all, do they?
No, and you get a poster of that art inside, and it's just like, oh, goody.
Oh, why would you
Not.
even want that? Yeah, it looks like a high school garage band.
Yeah, and like I said,
It
Dazed
does.
and Confused is the same way, and there's a couple other titles I think around that
Yeah.
period they must have had some prolific artists do. But I wish they just come up with something different. Like there's nothing that says you can't do something different, Criterion. You know, like,
Yeah, you can. I mean, just because you're Criterion doesn't mean you can't. Put a little effort into that artwork there on the
look,
cover there.
I'll be honest, Criterion has never had great cover art. Never.
No.
They look like some of the most generic, shitty cover arts I've ever seen ever on movies. Every single, not one Criterion release that I can think of in my entire life can I say has had decent art that wasn't just the poster art from the movie, which is even rare. Very rare have they ever just had the. It's always usually some shot, and they look horrible. They remind me of the old Warner Brothers covers back in the day.
Where they just put like the picture on the front there.
Yeah, where it's just a little square picture in the midst of a bunch of gobbledygook around it.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a long time since I've seen The Fisher King. I do remember being Robin Williams. Like it was like not long after what was that movie he did? He did like a certain movie, and then The Fisher King came along, and it kind of overlooked him.
This was 91, I think. So it'd have been right around the same time he did like Always, Aladdin, this.
It was like his first serious thing since Good Morning Vietnam, right?
No, I think he did. What's the one where he played the teacher in between there?
Oh yeah, Dead Poet Society. It's right after
Dead
Poet Society.
I think he did that in between. I think it's all in that era. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking, because he did like Dead Poet Society, and I got him some garnered him some attention, and like the Fisher King sort of came and went.
Yeah,
which is sad.
It did okay. I mean, I think it's done the best for as far as Gilliam movies in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember it being an early. I believe, and this is weird that I know this. It was an early theatrical film that got an IMAX release.
Oh yeah.
Because at that point, not a lot of movies got IMAX releases. Because the only reason I know that is because my cousin, and this is when IMAX was still part of the National Museum. Because my cousin went down to Chicago, and he's talked about going to the IMAX. He's telling me about the IMAX. I'd never heard of an IMAX before. He's like, you got to see this thing. It's amazing. He's like, you're in these reclining seats, and you go back, and the screen's like above you and all around you, and the sound is just hits you in the face. And he's like, we saw the movie The Fisher King, and it was great. I'm like, really? Like they show movies too? He's like, yeah, they showed like some like I think some shark thing and some other like oceanographic thing, and he's like, and then we watched The Fisher King, and I was like, wow. I was like, okay. So I didn't even know they showed movies back then. I didn't really know what an IMAX was. So yeah. So funnily enough, I know that.
I didn't know they played movies back then too, but I knew that the IMAX was because we took a school field trip to one up here in Cincinnati, and they called it the OmniMax up here in Cincinnati. And and it was like they blast you through space, and then you watch this nature documentary, and it was like
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't until later I learned they actually showed movies on there.
Well, they did periodically, but they didn't really start to get into it like all the time until AMC bought them out. And then a
Right.
lot of the if you go to if you go to an IMAX and an AMC, most of them are actually like a third or half the size of an actual IMAX of what they used to be. If you go to see one
Mm,
in an actual IMAX, so. But no, it's a
yeah.
good movie. Like I said, I can recommend it. Price wise, me,
Yeah.
it's a good
Criterion.
looking. Yeah, it's a good looking movie, but wait till a Criterion sale probably.
Yeah. It's because I want to get after hours too. I do want to get their 4K
That's
of
one that
after
actually has
hours.
a decent looking fucking poster or picture
Yeah,
for it. I'll
that's what
give
I
them
was
that
thinking.
one.
That's a good one, and I'm thinking I don't know if I want to buy that outright because I know it's going to be expensive when it's new, or if I want to
Yeah,
wait till the sale because I really want that one.
I
Um,
yeah,
Go
I think I
ahead.
just bought that on digital not too long ago too
Oh
because I was
man,
like, because it hasn't had a Blu-ray release even. So I
right.
was like, fuck it, I'll just buy it because I haven't seen. It's one of the few Scorsese films I haven't seen. So
That's gets you every time. And the funny is like the movie 3 o'clock high took inspiration from After Hours. So I want to kind of double feature that one day. But Victor Fontaine, he said the Kino sale wrecked him this week. Dropped
oh,
$160 on 9 Kino
when does that
4Ks.
end? When does that
The
end?
April 24th. You have the April 24th.
Oh, they're gonna get me, aren't they?
Yeah, and speaking of which,
I got
not
bills to pay, motherfuckers.
not only that, Shout Factory is having a box set sale, and Arrow is having a box set sale right now as well. And I don't know if the Blue Underground sale is going on, but Blue Underground was having a 4K sale as well from MVD. If you're looking for new physical media, there you go.
Why do you tell me these things when you know I should know them?
I know, and I've spent a little too much money on a couple of titles myself here lately, and I got to scale back, and I haven't even really got a whole lot lately.
Yeah,
But
I've been scaling back too a little bit, but yeah, it still don't
yeah,
seem to make a difference.
it doesn't. It's like I'll buy one, maybe two, a couple weeks, and the next thing you know, you got 4 or 5 titles, and you haven't watched them yet, and you're down on money, and you're like, oh yeah, that was awesome. It happens. But I'm gonna go with my first pick of the night since I already did a video on this, and so check out my video after we talk about it if you guys haven't after this. But Flashback from Shout Factory. I dig this movie, man. It's a great movie. It's a great Dennis Hopper is magnificent in this. The scan is an older scan. I would say it's from Internet Positive. It's done by Paramount. There's no special features whatsoever on the Blu-ray, but it's just a fun movie. I don't know. I spent like $25 on it, and I don't know if I should have spent $25 on it. It's not really worth it for 20. Well, to me, I keep saying that, but it's to me, it's worth it because I like the movie. But for maybe other people out there, you maybe don't want to drop 25 bones on just a movie that probably should be $12. So you might want to wait till a Shout Factory has a sale on this one. But as far as this movie goes, this is a nice little look back at history of a certain point in time because it was filmed in 1989. And most, as we know, most movies in the 80s longed for the 50s. And this is one of the rare ones that sort of looked back on the 60s and the counterculture movement and what the 80s had become with the capitalism and consumerism. And what's funny about it is, Dennis Hopper, he plays this hippie leader, Huey Walker, who is a radical in the 60s. And he's been on the run from the FBI for 20 years. And then he finally gets caught. What's funny about it is that once Dennis Hopper got clean and sober in the 80s, he actually turned from the left and he became a Republican, and he was a Republican almost up to the day he died. Almost. And so this is sort of like his movie where it shows him going from that hippie countercultural type guy into the conservative type guy he becomes. Seriously, it's a transformation. But along the way, it gives you a nice little look back on the hippie movement, what they stood for, and like going into the 90s, how everybody seemed to be sort of getting along. It didn't matter what side you were on, you were all sort of getting along, and people were getting, and like he gets Kiefer in touch with his, to be youthful and experience life and live. And that's really what it was all about. And it's just a fun, funny road trip movie, and I really enjoy it. And I know you lost your DVD, Tom. I know it was stolen from you, but you still have the case. So hopefully you get this soon, because I think you'll enjoy it a lot when you get to see it again.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
only downside is the price from what it sounds like. Damn it,
yeah.
Shout. Why can't you get these now, obviously older scans with no special features? Why can't you get them a little cheaper?
That's what I mean. I mean, they could at least put on like an archival special feature or something, or at least a trailer or something. It's just a
Yeah.
movie, and I mean that's fine. I want this movie on Blu-ray, but I don't think $25 is worth the price. But I'm
Yeah.
okay. I'm okay. I'm okay with it personally, but I don't think most people out there who want to see this movie would want to pay that much for it. So
Yeah.
yeah, so maybe wait on the sale on that one as well. But if you've never seen it, I do recommend the movie. It is a great movie.
Yeah, I liked it. It's been a year since I've seen it because somebody stole my DVD of it. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just a good movie. My favorite part is when he's after he's got like when him and Kiefer's on the train and like he's got him handcuffed to the wall and it's been like maybe 10-15 minutes into the movie. Then all of a sudden Dennis Hopper goes, fuck this, I need women, I need drugs, I need this. It's been fucking quiet for a fucking solid hour, man. I can't stand this shit. I love it. He just goes off, and that's when the movie like really gets going, and you're like, okay, now this is awesome because he just gives it like his performance is so great in this movie. I mean, the man doesn't miss.
Yeah, I liked it. I
Yeah,
wish
it's
I had it.
good.
I thought I pre-ordered it, but evidently I either didn't or something's going on with Shout Factory because yeah, none of their orders are showing up on my end that I've made in my life. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with them.
It's weird. Sometimes their website works, sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, and I emailed them and still ain't heard back. So go figure.
Brian Barth, runner is at work tonight, so he probably won't join us. Sadly, he may.
Yeah.
We never know. Sometimes he pops in right at the end when we think we've done a nice solid show. uh, but yeah, I can't wait for you to get it, Tom. Hopefully, you get it soon and get that all straightened out. I hope you get to see it again because Dennis Hopper, man, he just makes that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tim Hayes, Dennis Hopper actually was a very countercultural guy. He was a hardcore leftist. I mean, why?
Oh, he was a hippie back in the day.
Yeah, man, he was straight up hippie. And then, like in the '80s, once he got clean and sober, he changed his ways. And this movie, like I said, a flashback is sort of that movie showing his turn, even though he still keeps that sort of like counterculture attitude about him, which really helps play with the character and makes the movie so much more lighthearted and fun. But yeah, there you go. There's my first pick of the night. And if you haven't seen my video I did on it, check out my video afterwards. So look, speak of the devil. Somebody's ears must have been burning. I hope that runner kid makes the show tonight. Aren't you supposed to be working there, bud?
That's almost as bad as liking your own tweets, dude.
He's at work going, I hope Runner shows up tonight. I'm pretty sure he went to rehab. He just like, it was that time. Did they like force him into it or did he just go into it himself? I don't remember that. But I know he just went into rehab and he got himself all
Hard
together.
to say.
Yeah. You never really know.
I think he had a heart attack and some other shit. Like from too much cocaine.
Yeah. But there you go. There's my first pick of the night. Hope you guys like it. Tom, if you're ready, it's up to you.
Yeah, I got at least one movie watched this week from the Tarantino book. Although I've seen this movie quite a few times. It is a classic. And I'm hoping for a 4K. Like the anniversary came and went. And I cannot believe it's not part of the 100 anniversary 4Ks for Warner Brothers. It's just mind-boggling, but ding 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 ding. Of course, I have the nice digibook here, whatever they call
That's
them.
nice.
Where it has all the I'm flipping shit everywhere, but
can you squeal like a pig?
you soft. I like you.
Soft. Get out that bow, baby.
He's
Burt
got a
and
purty
Reynolds.
mouth.
Purdy mouth.
Oh, I love this movie. It's
It
fun.
is crazy.
It's a trip.
All the possum
Um,
kid still gets me.
um, yeah. I mean, if you haven't seen it, then you should do yourself a favor and seen it. Um, and see it. It is a classic.
Hmm.
Um, what else can say about it other than, I mean, if you don't know what it's about a couple of guys who take to the river in Georgia before it gets dammed up and floods a whole valley, and it's about their misadventures as they run into some of the country folk out there. And it's got Ned Beatty and Ronnie Cox and John Voight and Burt Reynolds in one of his first big roles. So yeah, it's a classic.
Ned Beatty hated talking about it. Wonder why Ned Beatty would hate talking about that film. Yeah, it is a good classic. I mean, like we talked about before, Burt Reynolds was like a huge megastar, and it's like that movie is like just like that's like a cultural pop culture type movie that everybody should at least see once. I think.
It's one of those movies where if you haven't seen it, you know the terms.
Yeah, you're like a pig. You got a pretty mouth, and
Yeah,
the
and the
banjo.
song and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's referred to many, many times over. You know, anytime anybody's in like the woods or canoeing or anything like that, there's always generally some deliverance joke. So
There is, which I always find funny because like these backwoods guys, like they would really do that to a guy. I would say I go back and forth on that because I do live out in the country and I know a lot of hillbillies. They wouldn't go out there and grab a guy and spank his skull like a pig like that. But then again, I know a lot of people who would get really drunk and do some really stupid shit to people out in the woods. So
well, we got to remember how deep in the woods these people were.
Yeah,
too,
they were
so
pretty.
like,
They were pretty backwoods people too.
like they
But I
even
mean,
pointed out in the beginning is like most of these people have never even seen a real city before. So
yeah,
like,
yeah. So that's yeah. It's just a classic film of. I mean, it's funny. It's action packed. It's disturbing. It's a good watch. I mean, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and at least give it a shot at least once in your life. What do you think of John Voight? I don't know. What do you mean, like as far as
he's a good actor.
yeah, he's a good actor. You be a little more
Point of
specific.
reference here.
I hear banjos.
Point of reference. Like I said, it's been
Yeah, yeah.
parodied and everything
It's
else.
a bunch of things. Shoot, they even sort of rip it off in the movie Cabin Fever.
Yeah, and what's that other one? Without a paddle, I think they even have.
Yeah, Without a Paddle. Yep, yeah. It's been everywhere. Voight and Deliverance. Yeah, he's good in it. Yeah, he's all right. He's good. I mean, the whole cast is pretty solid. I mean, Burt Reynolds, Ned Beatty, John Voight. They're all pretty good. It's a pretty solid cast. So, yeah. Um, but yeah, I always thought Suey personally kind of looked like the Possum Kid too, sort of in Family Guy.
Well,
A little bit. That's always see his face. But yeah, I mean, so I don't know. What do you keep thinking about it? Yeah.
I mean, there's not much to really get into. I mean, obviously, it's one of Quentin Tarantino's favorites. The other thing, I guess, to really say about it is the guys think it's funny when they hear stories of stuntmen taking credit for doing the stunts in Deliverance, and they're like, "Nah, we did all our own stunts. We don't know what the fuck they're talking about." And you can tell through most of the movie, like, yeah, it's obviously them. I think there's only one time I think it might be Burt Reynolds stunt double in it or something like that, but like other than that, like the whole other time, like even John Voight, that's him scaling up that shit. And I mean, the way it's shot, you can tell it's.
I'm gonna say you can say like the faces. You can clearly see their faces and stuff with the camera and everything. Yeah.
And for those who may not know, like that shot when they come across Ronnie Cox near the end, like he could actually do that with his arm. That's his real arm. That's cocked up like that. Because like his shoulder, he could like put his shoulder out of joint or whatever. Yeah, so that's like his little gimmick he brought to the table.
Pop it out and then twist it around. Yep. But yeah, it's a good movie. It will make you look at the backwoods a little different next time you're out rafting and camping and stuff. So be wary, be wary. Uh,
Otherwise, the only other funny thing about the movie is the author of the book insisted on being around all the time until he got kicked off the set
oh yeah.
because he kept trying to co-direct the movie, and the actors said it was really weird because he kept referring to them as the characters.
Oh.
So he wouldn't call them by their names; he would call them by their character names. So I can't remember what Burt Reynolds' character is offhand. I just forgot it. But he come up to him, he kept saying, the name to Burt, but he wouldn't say Burt. So Burt refused to turn around. He was at the bar the night before they started shooting. And he come up to the bar and he slams his hands on the bar and he goes, "Hey, I'm talking to you, so-and-so," whatever the name of the character was in the
Yeah.
movie. He goes, "Look, my name's Burt. Tomorrow you can call me that all you want. But tonight, I'm Burt." And he turned back to his drink and he's like, "This guy's like 6 foot something. He could probably mop the floor with me." And he goes, there's just a silence for about a half a minute. And he goes, "That's exactly what your character would say." And he walked away. Like,
Nice. I guess he really wanted to be hands-on with the things he created.
oh
Like,
yeah.
no, they would do this.
Yeah, no, he was very, very like, and then he even got into it with the director because yeah, he was set to be the sheriff at the end of the movie, and when it came back to have him come back, he's like, "If I leave, I'm not coming back. You better find yourself another actor," because he was all pissed off about being booted from the set. But he goes, "Yeah, we didn't have a problem. We called him and he came right back." But like, well, we needed him, but he's like,
Sounds
"Yeah,
like a
until
little
it's
kid.
until it's your scenes, you stay the fuck off the set." Because they shot most of this movie almost in sequence because they had to just go down
Yeah.
the river basically. So like, yeah,
It's a good film. I haven't seen it in quite some time or two, but myself. But you can always remember it. It always sticks with you.
oh yes,
Yes, it does. It's a lingering movie, shall we say? But it's in a good way because it's a decently great film. You know. Um, But I guess move on to my second pick of the
yeah,
night if you're ready. Yeah. Okay,
sure,
this one is a DVD. I think it has a Blu-ray, but I don't have the Blu-ray. I just I finally got around to watching this one after I watched the other version or whatever. Still not sure if that other one's a remake, but Breeders from 1986. This is a sleazy, dirty movie. I felt really dirty after watching this, and if Vinegar Syndrome hasn't done this movie yet, this is something that they would do. I can't say I particularly enjoyed it too much. It's a bad movie. Essentially, there's this alien thing going
okay. We've
around.
talked about the other version of this movie before.
Yeah,
'Cause
I brought the other one
yeah,
on. Yeah.
okay,
Because I bought them at a I can't remember, a secondhand store or whatever one day.
yeah,
I just like Breeders and Breeders. What's this? So I just bought them. I know they got Blu-ray. I found out later they had Blu-ray. So, but I don't think I would buy this on a Blu-ray personally. I think what I got, the $2 I paid for is fine.
yeah. The Blu-ray is going for like $20,
Yeah.
and I can't tell who releases it. It doesn't say.
This is an MGM movie, so if
It
Vinegar
looks like
Syndrome
it might be. It looks like it might be Shout actually that has it.
oh, really?
I mean, that's the cover wise, but I could be wrong. It doesn't say who releases it here. Oh, Olive. Oh, it's an
Oh,
Olive release.
so the DVD I have here is probably the same thing.
Pretty close.
Yeah. But yeah, the movie it's filthy, it's dirty. It takes place in Manhattan. There's this alien, and he's basically taking virgins and doing things to them.
Oh, it's one of
And
the Empire pictures. It
yeah,
says
it's an
Ken.
empire. Yeah. I think it's one of the early ones. It doesn't say Charles Band on it at all, but I know that actually, if you go to the Full Moon website, they actually sell this on VHS on Full Moon. A new VHS of it, but I'm good with this one. So basically, this alien is taking these virgins and doing things to him. And so there's this police officer and this doctor. They're trying to figure it out. It all culminates into the bottom of, and the below the hospital. I'm telling you, I don't know how they did it or what they were thinking, but they got these 5 to 6 women fully naked swimming in this pool, white like goo dripping. It looks like something you would see in on Pornhub or something. Legitimately, I mean, if you can't see what this director was going for with these women covered in this stuff, then you don't know what I'm talking about. Uh, so yeah, basically, he's going to impregnate them. He's changed their DNA, and he's going to bring forth this new alien race. And so the police officer and the detective pretty much. Not the spoilers, anybody, but yeah, they pretty much stop it. It's only like an hour and 17 minutes long. It's really bad. Normally I like movies like this, but this one was yeah, I can't really recommend this one. I've seen like Humanoids of the Deep is better than this. I see you saying that deleted scenes Humanoids of the Deep City edition. No, the Humanoids of the Deep is one of those good like cheesy bad skin flicks with like rubber monsters. This is just like a really bad skin flick, just hiding out using a fake rubber monster just so they could get these girls naked. Pretty much. So, the best thing I can say is, yeah, it does got great nude scenes, but other than that, the movie is not. It's nothing to scream home about. So, if you want to watch it, go ahead. If you don't, it's probably best you don't. Yes, Tim Hayes, you can. You can actually buy the big box VHS version of Breeders on FullMoon.com. You can. So I think he had something to do with it. Even though his name's not on the back of that, I'm pretty sure he had something to do with this movie. But there you guys go. That was my second pick. I grabbed it off the shelf. I figured, why not? I would have to say the 90s version Breeders is superior to that movie. At least it has a story and a plot that you can kind of get interested in. And the big rubber monster is pretty damn cool. And the women aren't used as like just the gimmick to get naked. I mean, yes, it has great nudity in it, but it's not just like, oh, look, here's a bunch of naked women swimming in a water of basically, you know what I'm saying. So it's a funner movie, the 90s version, as far as I can say. But there you go. There's my second pick of the night. I guess we'll move it along to you. I mean, we're breezing through. So if you're ready for your next pick, because there ain't really much I could talk about that one.
Yeah, I wish I'd seen it so I could help you talk about it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's trust me, you don't want to see it.
well, we're on to my last pick of the night.
Yeah, I only got one more too. So
Uh, this is one that we've talked about before, but not in this capacity. This is one that was a release that people were really upset about because they couldn't do the full 3-hour cut they found. And I'm really upset because for some reason my pre-order of it got canceled. I think they oversold it on Amazon UK. So I was able to get this version no problem, but not the other version.
yes, man.
And all this is just the single disc 4K version. So the only thing I'm really missing that I'm pissed about is the soundtrack. I don't really care about the lobby cards in the box and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But the movie itself, it's a weird movie. It's different. It has a weird tone to it. It's kind of weird because I just saw Renfield, and it kind of has a weird similarity to that in a somewhat of a sense, but not exactly. But like, I did like Renfield quite a bit. This, I like it. It's not in my top 5 of Romero films though. It's pretty good though. It doesn't look the best. It's from it's from a 35 millimeter blow up. Because I guess the way this was shot, it was shot with like ends and leftover stuff from some of the projects they were working on for commercials and stuff, I guess. Because for those who don't know, Romero had a company that did commercials and stuff on the side, and that's how they financed all their shit. And it was also, he was forced to shoot it in color, even though he didn't want to.
Yeah, he wanted to shoot it in black and
He
white.
wanted to shoot it in black and white. But I would love to see the other version, but at the same time, this version is already kind of slow moving in the beginning.
Hmm.
It takes a while to get going, and then once it gets going, it almost feels like vignettes stitched together instead of an actual movie of sorts. It's kind of weird. Because I mean, I don't know if have you ever seen it before?
Parts, most of it, not all of it, but from what I understand, the stuff that was cut out was a lot of flashbacks. That was going to be they were going to be weaved in, from what I understand,
Which
and
you
that's
can
why
get.
it kind of feels
You get like,
vignette like.
yeah, you get very, very, very limited flashback sequences here. Because in this version of the film, and that's what I'm curious about the other version, if it gives you a bit more of a. Because, okay, for those who don't know what the actual story is, it's about this guy named Martin who's getting sent to the city to live with his cousin
Mm-hmm.
and his, like, second or third cousin, because it'd be his granddaughter. And he's obviously got some issues. And the issues stem from his family have convinced him, or he is, a vampire. So,
Yep.
like his family, like his grandpa treats him like he's a vampire. Like that's the thing. He's all freaked out and he's gonna cure him before he kills him. Is what he flat out tells him right away.
Mm-hmm.
And we see in this opening sequence, how Martin does his thing. He will inject a victim until with some kind of something that puts him to sleep. He never really specifically says what it is. Some sedative though.
Yeah.
So he ends up drugging this girl, raping her, and then drinking her blood until she dies, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And he insists that he's like 80 some years old at one point, and he has these flashbacks. But at no point do they really tell you, is it really him just going completely fucking insane because he's been forced to think by his family all these years that he's a vampire, or really is he a vampire?
Mm-hmm.
Like, spoilers, they don't really fucking tell you.
Yeah, I know. I remember it ends on basically like, well, was he?
And it has a twist at the end. Like the ending, I like the twist is weird. I didn't hate that. Like I said, the first half is where it's really kind of slow moving, getting into this thing, and there's bits and pieces here and there that are interesting. But then it isn't until like that last half of the film where it really starts to take off, because there's two main sequences that are kind of padded in between with it's kind of weird the way it's structured.
Right.
Because yeah, like you have, because he kind of has this thing where he seeks out victims, and it clearly, like at first you're like, okay, is this just some like psychosexual thing? Because he does talk like somebody who's like a virgin, even though he's clearly had women, but only when they're unconscious.
Yeah, and he gets infatuated with the woman.
And he
The
gets
other woman
infatuated
there, right?
with some other, yeah. But then at the same time, when he does have to feed, he kills out of necessity at the same time, but he'll feed off of anybody. So then it really starts to make you wonder, is he really a vampire? And if you believe these flashbacks, the way his fucking grandpa, or his uncle acts, is his uncle, but the one chick's grandpa. It's a really weird relationship. And just kind of the whole idea of how long he says he's been around, if it's true, it's like you kind of have to take it face value at that point.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, especially if there's more flashbacks, then that tells me most likely that Romero's version is he really is a vampire.
Yeah, from what I understand, Brian Barth, it wasn't just the deleted scenes; it was the whole director's cut.
Yeah, 150-minute cut.
Yeah, the actual print of the film, and the guy that runs the control of it, he would not allow them
Robert something or other.
Yeah, he would not allow them to do the 4K scan, and so they were stuck with what they were stuck with. From what I understand, like you said, is like, I think because like we said, he wanted to shoot it in black and white, so I think he made a compromise somehow, and that like all the flashbacks were going to be in black and white, and then all the stuff in the 70s or whatever was going to be color. And a lot of it, what was cut out was the flashbacks of the film to like tighten it up. So yeah, I would assume in Romero's original version, it might answer more questions.
This version runs at like 98 minutes. Mm-hmm. So that means if there's a 3-hour version, then that means there's an hour and a half of the movie. Half the movie's missing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, So what the hell, I mean, the movie's coherent. Don't get me wrong. I mean, like I said, it even is slow moving in the beginning. So there's part of this I'm going, I can't imagine another half of this movie, right? But at the same
Mhm.
time, as you get near the end, it's like it sure does feel like there's something else that could have been done here. Like, because it is a very interesting take on the vampire, right? Because he goes off on the whole idea that all this superstitious nonsense doesn't work,
Yeah,
right?
it's all
Like
like
the
very
sunlight
different.
shit's
Yeah.
bullshit. Garlic things bullshit. Religion things bullshit. Like, and he's like talking about how like, you know, how it used to be, it's so much easier now that he can use a sedative, right? Since he said
Hmm.
because again, he doesn't say what, he just says the shots. He goes, so much easier now that I can use the shots, So, like, again, it's a very interesting kind of, I hate saying it. It almost is a movie that could use a good remake.
Mm.
I
It
know, and I
it
know
might
it's almost
work.
sacrilegious to a point, but like, rather than seeing Dawn of Dead get a remake, I'd have rather seen something like this.
Yeah, that's what I was like. That's what I was saying about the Crazies. Like, I love George Romero's Crazies, but that's a movie that was remade with Timothy Oliphant. That it has a really good remake. And then Martin, don't get me wrong, Martin is a from what I remember of the pieces I've seen of it, it was a decent movie. But that movie could be a Romero movie that could be remade. So that could be,
Because yeah, I would switch some things up. I
yeah.
would make it be like he goes to live with like his grandpa or whatever, and it's his family still does all this shit, but it's more of a direct relation, and the father
Hmm.
and it's a grandfather's more obsessed, and like that craziness was passed down through the mother who like killed herself, or they think that he did it, and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
that's why he's out. He needs more character development a little bit in the beginning to where we kind of get an idea of where he's coming from, because I mean the way we're introduced to Martin, it's like he's clearly a psycho.
Yeah, he messed up.
So I
Yeah,
mean, and I like that aspect of it to where you're kind of going, okay, is this guy really a psycho, or is this true? Is he really a vampire? And I know the movie's doing it by choice to leave it ambiguous as it is, but I can't believe that that's the way Romero intended it to be. Like, I gotta
I
believe that the catch at the end is you gotta find out one way or another. You cannot cop out on this. You have to tell the audience in some way, shape, or form whether or not he's a vampire, especially
yeah,
the way it ends.
and it would have been interesting actually if they could have allowed him to have the cut. So you never know, you may get a cut of Martin in 4K, the full cut, once that the guy makes his own deal
Chances
somehow
are he
somewhere.
probably didn't want to license that out to. He wants to do one version where he can get the 4K out there, the standard
Yeah,
version, and then he'll do the director's cut. Because I think he
yeah,
had to pay for it at an auction too, if I remember reading it right.
yeah. I think so. Yeah,
So
but
he's
it
probably going to want to recoup something of that too.
Yeah, and I would assume once again I don't really know, but I would assume most of that was cut out, the 70 minutes, as Brian Barth points out, that were cut out, were more than likely to help explain the ending and explain Martin altogether. So you probably have more of a definitive answer of what exactly was going on and everything.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
so
thing with the flashbacks. It's like, okay, he's seeing those flashbacks, but we need something to either give us that shows us that those are true, or something that gives us that we know it's fucking bullshit. Right? And there's only a
mhm.
couple ways you could do that, and that would be in the movie that exists. I mean, I don't know, but like if you do a remake of it, well, the way you go about it is like that's where the mother comes in. Like if he sits there and claims to be 80 years old, well, then you show a picture of him when he was a kid with his mother, clearly knowing he's bullshit, or you show a picture of him way back in the 1800s or whatever, or late or early 1900s, where he's obviously the same age.
Mhm.
Something to that effect. You got to
Yeah,
do something, even if it's just a little something to give us something to hang up on. Because again, like I like the movie, I want to like it more. Like
yeah.
that's my problem with it. It's like I like this, but I don't know, and I'm
There's
not even bitching like I feel like I got cheated out of the 3 hour cut, because this is a movie that people have watched for years and love. But
that
maybe it's a
version.
movie, yeah, and maybe it's a movie I got to talk with like somebody like Robert or somebody like that to get some perspective on it, because clearly I get, at the time this came out, this was a very unique take on a vampire
Hmm.
that we've never seen anything like this before. And it also incorporates this idea of, the kind of calculated serial killers of the
Yeah.
day. And, he even talks about getting sloppy and, all that kind of stuff. And I love the narration part of it, because normally I'm not a big fan of narration. But in this aspect of the story, it really kind of helps you through the story to get into his head. But it's like, okay, is he an unreliable narrator, or is he not or is he a reliable narrator? Because
Yeah.
like the thing is that really puts you in that place is, if he wants to believe this insanity, well, then he doesn't play into all the tropes, right? Like, so he automatically rejects all the tropes, but he still insists that he's a vampire,
Yeah.
regardless of the fact that he wants his family to stop persecuting him for it, right? So right there,
Hmm.
that kind of makes you feel like this is an infliction upon him and not something that he's just creating in his mind.
Yeah. And because like his whole family, they believe it, or they like it's something unspoken or something about it, right? As far as I can
Well,
remember.
no, they flat out talk to him about it. Like like I said, his uncle flat out says right away. He knows Nosferatu. He keeps calling him.
Yeah. That's right. I was keep thinking like
So
they were
you're
like,
like, obviously, it's either his family's fucking nuts and made him crazy, because otherwise, you're like, is this guy just doing this as a fantasy to justify what he's doing to these women? But then you get the scene with the hobos and shit, or sorry, homeless guys. And then it's like, well, I wouldn't want to drink their fucking blood, but he
yeah, it
had
would
to, or he
be
did. He made do, right? Like, because he was getting
right.
shaky. And that led to him being sloppy, too, on top of it all. But,
Hmm.
like, that's the thing is, in the beginning, that's why I do like the beginning. It shows that when he's on the train, he does a really great job of going in. He's very calculated, knows what he's doing, gets the job done, gets out, no problem. But everything after that, he has issues with, up until the end, which is an excellent twist on both parts. Like, again, like I said, there's some great shit in here, but it just feels like one of those movies that could be a really excellent remake at the same time.
Yeah. And it would be interesting. Hopefully, one day we get to see the full cut of the film and then see, and yeah, I could see that. Like I said, I'm not all for remakes and reboots, all that. They could get tiresome, but in some cases, there are certain movies that could probably use a remake, and maybe Martin could use a little bit of an updating or something. I don't know. One day, who knows?
Yeah. Otherwise,
Yeah.
unless this other cut's that different, I want to see it. Because there's some hanging. I mean, not totally hanging, but like, we don't know what happens to his younger cousin when she leaves, because she leaves town with Tom Savini's character,
Oh
and we
yeah,
don't know what happens after
forgot about
that.
that.
I mean, he mentions her later on, but it's like, okay, so like, does he go to the city and see her at all? Because he almost insinuates in the one part like he's like, oh, it's just too bad she forgot about me, because like it almost insinuates like he's gonna go find her and get her, and
Hmm.
you know what I mean, like,
Yeah,
like get her, like,
get
kind of
her.
a thing.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I wonder, is there more there that's cut out? What is missing from this? Because yeah, I mean, I don't know.
it's
The
it's
ending is so abrupt too, in the way it ends too. But
yeah. I don't. I really wish they would have gotten that cut approval. So because you would have had that, in your hands. Because they actually stopped production of the 4K they were making to try to do it, and
yeah,
then so one day, it's like I said, from what I could tell, from what I remember, what I read is like most of it was going to be, most of what was cut out was the flashbacks, but it was going to flesh out the story a little more because, like you said, when it gets to a certain point in the movie, it kind of feels like vignettes and all that coming together till it gets to the end. It kind of gets interesting. Well, that's because they cut it down to 98 minutes to tighten it up and get to that point. So it'd be kind of interesting to see exactly what we weren't allowed to see
yeah,
events, So
yeah. Especially how much
yeah,
there is of it. It's not like it's a 5-10
yeah,
minute different. I mean, I've heard a lot of that before. Very rarely have I seen a cut where it lived up to the expectations,
right.
or at least lived up to what it was promised to be. So like, I'm not gonna get my hopes up for that, but it would be cool to see it. So,
You never know. I mean, George Romero may have put together a better movie than what most people really like. So
well, considering the film is a compromise, yeah, I would think.
yeah, yeah.
But at the same time, if anybody did get the ultimate cut edition, whatever, and you want to send me the soundtrack, I won't be adverse to that.
There you go.
Like if you
There
want to
you go.
copy it from MP3 for me, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, yeah.
It is a haunting. It has some haunting themes, and it almost evokes Dracula too. At the same time, it's kind of a, speaking of Renfield, which was really fun. I hope you get a chance to see that soon.
I
I think
want
you'll
to
enjoy
see
it.
it. I want to see it. I thinking about trying to maybe go into the theater, but then I was like, it's such a long way away, and I don't know. But I really want to see the movie because it looks really good, and it kind of saddens me to hear so many people's say it not do so well. So because I think
Yeah.
Nick Cage.
Oh, he's
Maybe they could
great
have
in
just
it.
made a Nick Cage movie as Dracula, just Nick Cage. Maybe that would
It
have been
kind of
cool.
is that, but I mean,
Is
at the
it?
same time, I mean, he's the bad guy in the movie. He's still Dracula. He's
Yeah,
the Dracula, but it'll be
yeah. I
on
like that.
demand here in 17 days. So
Yeah, so I'll be able to see. I do like that they kind of went back to more like an evil Dracula. You know what I mean? Because you usually don't. They've made him such an anti-hero, Dracula, that you
well,
forget
that's where
that
I
no,
know a
he's
lot
supposed
of
to be the
people.
monster from Jaws.
Yeah, I know he is. He's very much the monster version of Dracula here. I know a lot of people are worried about him getting nerfed, and they're like, "Oh, I don't
Right.
want to watch Renfield be a cuck." Well, it's like, well, that's kind of what the movie's about: is Renfield claiming his manhood. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you just gotta kind of see it. It's either gonna be your cup of tea or it's not. But I enjoyed it quite a bit, so I think you might. So,
I think it will. It looks good from what everything I've seen. Plus, I really like Nicolas Cage. So,
but
um,
yeah, that's my last pick. No batshit crazy picks this week.
okay. Well, I need to get. I need to pick up Mart myself because I was debating on getting in the big set myself, but I think I'm just going to get the standalone edition personally. I
All
think
the
it is.
special features are on the 4K, and the Blu-ray is region locked, I guess. So keep that in mind.
All I need is the
Not that there's
4K.
any differences. Yeah, all the special features are on the 4K. So unless you really, really, really want the soundtrack, yeah,
Yeah,
and the
I wouldn't
lobby
mind having the
cards.
sound. I wouldn't mind having the soundtrack, but yeah, I really just need the 4K personally. So I love Romero films. So, and that's one have only not. I've only seen like maybe once, not all the way through. You know what I mean? So I vaguely remember bits and pieces here and there. But speaking of a movie that I've only ever seen bits and pieces of, and I finally sat down and watched this movie all the way through, and I know it's something that I actually came to think that I really really enjoy, and that would be Crawl.
Oh
And
yeah,
if a
that's a good
movie
one.
ever screamed for a 4K, it's this movie right here.
Believe it or not, it already has a scan. It just for
It
some reason
does.
has never been released. Yeah.
Ugh, I would love to see this one on 4K. Now, I remember seeing bits and pieces of this growing up as a kid, the Cyclops and all that good stuff, and I had never seen it all the way through. And I've had the Blu-ray for quite some time. Mill Creek, by the way, it's a Mill Creek Blu-ray.
Yeah.
um, but I finally sat down and I watched it all the way through, and damn, is this a good movie? It really is a good movie, and I gotta say, like seeing early Liam Neeson in it, and what's his name from Harry Potter, who has passed away, Robbie Coltrane, who's in it. It was pretty cool to see him. Um, but yeah, man, this movie was good. It really truly does say it's like it says Excalibur meets Star Wars. It truly is Excalibur meets Star Wars.
Pretty
Uh,
much.
yeah, it really is, and yeah, I love this movie. Um, so basically, the plot of the story for anybody that maybe has never seen Crawl, um, so like this evil spaceship like thing with this giant alien on it comes to this land. It's like a castle. It's basically like a skull castle, almost like Castle Grayskull, and it lands and it moves from day to day. And and it's prophesized that the princess will choose on this planet that they're on. The princess will choose her husband, and they will rule this planet, and their son will rule the galaxy. And so we start off at the wedding of the two chosen ones, and so like the evil guy sends his crew member out. They got like laser beams and stuff, and they basically take out everybody, kidnap the princess. So the guy has to go and save her. It's your classic, thing. And plus, you get the sword and sorcery bits, horses, like England, British people. It all works well. And so like they go on this journey. They gather this crew together, like this merry men along the way, like these criminals who are escaped and who are actually good guys, and he promises to set them free. And then they get a Cyclops. They get this guy who thinks he's a magician, and he always turns himself into anything. He's freaking hilarious. And then they get like this old man who's a seer, so they can try to find the castle. And then it finally all comes down to like the epic conclusion, and it's like space and lasers and swords and the kick-ass weapon. So my only thing is like he gets this awesome weapon, right? That's like throwing star sword type thing, and they say you'll know to use it when the time is right. Dude could have whipped it out a lot at certain points in time. It took out a bunch of dudes just before they got there, and they wouldn't have lost so many guys along the way. But it comes down to this thing, and like the giant alien thing is really cool, and it's just a really great movie. It definitely needs that 4K release. I would love to see it, and it was fun. I had never seen it all the way through, and it was a good flick. It was a good flick. I'm glad to finally have seen it all the way through once and for all. The princess's voice
it's been a
is
few
ever
years.
done. Yeah, I'd never seen it all the way through. I just
But I
only
know
seen
it's
bits and
got a
pieces.
4K scan because they did it for the anniversary for the they did a theatrical Fandango thing. Like I don't know if it was I think it was a year before last for the anniversary. But yeah, so it's had a 4K scan now for about 2-3 years.
Yeah,
But that Blu-ray's a couple years older than that, so that's from an older scan.
yeah. It looks all right. I wouldn't say it's the greatest, especially since it's Mill Creek, but it's watchable. It's watchable.
What sucks is I think like you, I bought it before they did the video cover version of it. So it's kind of like, jerks.
Yeah, and then they give you
The only
nice
good
little
thing
cover.
Mill Creek's ever fucking done besides their price.
Exactly.
I don't hate those. I mean, they're kind of cheesy, but they are kind of nostalgic in that sense.
Yeah, I like the little VHS side on the side when they do that with the slipcover.
Yeah. I mean, the only downside is they always seem to use they use the Columbia Pictures side box, but whatever.
Yeah.
Of course, they've changed that. It's not on every one of them. They've gotten pretty close to most of them. So
I just got that, and there's no reverse.
Yeah, it's just the standard poster art,
yeah.
which so that ain't bad for
No, it's not
Mill
bad.
Creek. At least it's not anything too obnoxious.
Yeah, it kind of sucks that he just kind of let the glaive just sit there in the alien's chest. He couldn't pull it back, and so kind of just burns up in the castle. I was like, he's not going to get it back.
Yeah, James Horner and Jerry Goldsmith were very notorious for reusing a lot of their scores. To see Joey pointed out that a lot of the same music was and actually like for instance Jerry Goldsmith, if you listen to the score for The Burbs, a lot of that was reused in Gremlins 2.
I noticed that.
So
yeah.
And then there's like a piece in Gremlins 2 that was from some other movie he had done years before that, and so there, especially when those guys started getting older, they reused a lot of their ancillary music. Well, and a lot of that, Andre was thinking of doing a video on this, but he never did it. But basically, he was going to talk about how some of these directors get a little too married to their temp music. And it's led to some lawsuits and such. And I believe this is probably the origins of some of that. So, like, a lot of these guys, they would probably come in and somebody would have, let's say Krull, they would have just temped it with the score to Wrath of Khan. Since James Horner was coming in to score it, they just used that, maybe one of his other scores to temp score the movie. Well, the director probably fell so in love with that piece of music that the composer either just does something similar or just reuses that piece. Right? They don't even bother messing with it. They just use the same piece. And other times it's probably just to save time. Because some of these guys, as I said, especially as they were getting older, I mean, they're scoring 3, 4, 5 movies a year. You ain't got time to write that many scores. Right. So if something's going to be interchangeable, you're just going to use it.
Yeah, you're just going to change it out. Yeah. That makes sense.
Sci-fi sounding, you're going to use it. If something's like goofy, macabre sounding, you're going to use it for horror and Gremlins type stuff. It makes sense. Yeah. And if you think about the movies, considering they both have the same director, which helps, like The Burbs and Gremlins too, they have a very similar tone. So the score is very easily interchangeable. So yeah.
Yeah, it blends in with the director's style and stuff. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brian Barth, I sent a question. Where was it? Yeah, I guess I would say the critics got it wrong because I liked the movie. I mean, I knew I
I'm
would
curious what
even as a
Ebert and
kid.
Siskel and Ebert said, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up and see what they say. I know it wasn't. It didn't do very well, did it? From what I can understand, it was not a very big hit,
No,
or
it
it was
became more of a
just
cult hit later on.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a shame. It is a really good movie. I could have seen a franchise out of this if it was done right, but then also at the same time, the one and done is fine by me. But I do wish he could have got that freaking glaive back. I mean, it's like all the build up to it, and then he like loses it, and never gets it back. Um, Here you go. Here you go. Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel reviewing Kroll on their show at the movies gave the film 2 thumbs up, down and called it one of the most boring, nonsensical, illogical fantasies in a long time. Well, I guess so.
That's too bad because Roger usually likes stuff like that.
Yeah,
And they
it's too
both
bad.
loved stuff like Dragon Slayer and whatnot. So
Now I was curious. The guy here, what's his name? Ken Marshall. I know the director, David Weiner, who does the In Search of Darkness and Search of Tomorrow. He was actually looking to find him so he could interview him for a crawl for the In Search of Tomorrow, the first documentary. I don't think he ever found him. So that'd be interesting. I was wondering where he went because, like, I know he was on Star Trek, and other than that, I don't think he was on ever in anything else. And I know he put out a call. David Weiner put out a call to find him because he really, really wanted to talk to him about this movie, and so it never happened. So because I watched the documentary, they don't get to really discuss Crawl or talk to anybody from it. So I wonder whatever happened to Ken Marshall.
mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I see that Tommy reviews that now on Amazon USA they have the special edition in stock for $51. But I originally pre-ordered it from Amazon UK and they canceled my order. And the reason I think that's because they ran out because I went to try and reorder it again and they were out of stock. But I've noticed now they've been able to get some in stock in the US. So see what happens is a lot of these dealers will order them and they'll get a nice, bunch of them. What is it? Diabolic DVD is one of those that does that
Diabolic,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Diabolic
So
and Orbit DVD.
yeah. So there's a few of
Yeah,
them. And sometimes I just go through those guys. But in this case, considering how much I liked or didn't like the movie, I guess you should say, I'm glad I didn't spend the $50 on a big fucking box set of a movie that I'm only missing out on a soundtrack that I could probably get for free from somebody or next to nothing on an MP3 form, probably.
yeah. That's like I said. I think I'm probably just going to pick up the single edition there for Martin when I get to it. It sounds like something I would watch, and I don't need the big hoopla stuff for it. But yeah, and I did post this on because Robert Meyer Burnett. Speaking of which, it wasn't Saturday night the night I watched it, but he put a thing on his Instagram. He was like, uh, comment down below, watch a movie that you've always heard was a classic that you never watched, and then comment down below, there are no wrong answers. And I was like, I just watched Crawl for the first time after, because I've only ever seen bits and pieces of it. And I got a pretty good response on that. A lot of people were like, liking that. And then a couple people said that it needs a remake. And I'm like, no, this does not need a remake. Do not remake this movie. I know it
You
could
know,
be made for a remake. I know, but I
yeah,
don't.
not
I don't want to
nowadays,
see this one.
unfortunately.
Yeah, no.
Well, you know what I would say? I would go in there and say, I just watched Cool Hand Luke and I don't fucking get it.
You should do it. Do it good. He still got it up. People are still commenting on that post on it. Do it. Say, I watch Cool and Luke and I don't get it.
I did get it. I just think it's over. How do I put it? I remember when I said it then. I'd have to go back and look at what I said, but it was very heavy-handed was the one term I think I used. And it was
Yeah.
mixed messages at the same time. So
Yeah. I think it's maybe one of the movies you had to be there. You know what I mean?
I mean, I didn't hate it, but I'm just sitting here going, why is this considered this fucking massive classic? It has mixed messages at the end. I don't get it.
I know Serial Midnight put up his review of it. I haven't watched it
Honestly,
yet, so
okay, I'll say it this way. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest had the same themes and basic story and did it better.
mm. I get you. I get you. I've seen it a couple times. My dad used to watch it, so I think it's an all right movie. It's nothing. Like I said, I think maybe you got to have been in that time frame. Maybe I don't know. It just is what it is. Uh, but that's it for for my picks tonight. I don't have anything else, and we kind of went through that pretty quick tonight for an hour long. um,
Well, it helps when you don't have Runner muddying up the thing with all the Zack Snyder movies all the time.
Zack Snyder and Christopher Nolan.
Yeah. Oh, we got to talk about Tenet again.
For the 100th time. Did you? Speaking of a movie, did you see the trailer for the Robert Englund documentary?
I heard about it, but I haven't seen the trailer.
I watched the trailer today from Screenbox. Is coming. It
I was
looks
gonna say it's gonna be on
really
Screenbox,
good.
isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, in June 9th, I believe. I think they said.
Yeah, I have to check that out.
It's pretty good. I liked it. So it's from the same people that did Pennywise. Same director. So
Yeah.
it looked
That
pretty
means
good.
it should get a DVD release around the
Yeah,
same time.
it
Then.
should get Blu-ray
Or
release.
Blu-ray or whatever. Yeah.
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 All the times you brought up Debbie Does Dallas.
I know, right? He's gonna surprise us one of these days.
One of these days. I like he said, you're going to get me in trouble. Like he's 20 years old now. And he's going to get in trouble for buying Debbie Does Dallas.
It's a classic.
I thought you guys were saying
it's probably in the Library of Congress or something.
It wouldn't surprise me.
No, I don't think it is, but
no, it would surprise me though.
If there was a porn museum of Congress, they'd have it.
It's in the Hall of Fame of porn, people.
It'd be like the number 2 inductee after Deep Throat.
One of these days, he will surprise us and he'll bring it on. We'll see, though.
Yeah. I should just send him a care package of like Deep Throat, that, a couple other classic porns. Yeah.
You're going to get him in trouble.
Yeah. But he's gonna be like, "What the fuck, man? These are like weird porns." It's like, yeah, they actually used to make movies.
He watched them on his phone.
Well, at least he did what kids do nowadays when it comes to porn.
Yeah,
I guess.
Yeah.
Watch it on their phone.
Watching on their phone. Crazy kids. But yeah, the Robert Englund, this movie, his documentary looks really good. I really liked hearing what they said, where they had from the trailer where they were going with it. It felt right, so it looked good. I'm definitely going to be watching that. But if there's anything you want to talk about real quick, because I know we were going to kind of do a shorter stream tonight, so if there's anything you want to talk about, let me know, or anybody in the chat wants us to talk about real quick before we head out, let us know.
I think we're good.
Yeah, reminds me of that joke in that Adam Sandler movie with what's his name?
I know that this porno's made.
Yeah,
in
it's the 70s. His dick's got sideburns.
Yeah, it's from Bulletproof.
Bulletproof, yeah. That don't have a Blu-ray, does it?
Yeah, it does.
It does. I'm gonna have to look.
Older one, but yeah,
I like that. I like that.
I'm surprised Kino hasn't done a 4K of it yet, though. It's a Universal title.
Oh, I don't know if that one needed 4K, but I wouldn't mind a Blu-ray of a newer one.
I don't know. It's an action film. I wouldn't mind.
It's pretty good. Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. Like, there's a lot of the Adam Sandler movies and stuff like that from Universal and stuff that I can't believe Kino hasn't picked up yet.
Yeah.
Oh well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Anyway,
we'll see. Well, speaking of which,
I don't mind like his first few movies anyway.
Yeah, I don't mind them. Happy Gilmore and oh my God, Billy Madison were great. Let's get it.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. No, I think it's good we get to get out of here early. Let's run before Runner gets in here and makes us.
Yeah, we better get
3 picks.
We better go.
Great guys, I got 3 movies.
I got 3 movies. I'm on break. But thank you, Tom. Thank you for being here. Enjoyed your picks. Thank you, everybody in the chat, for hanging with us this long. I know we're cutting it short tonight, but I'm sure next week we'll probably go longer. And we'll always come back with more physical media. Same bat channel, same bat time. And as always, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So
How you doing? Bitches leave.